All right, real life traders, it is Friday, April 16th. We have another options expiration Friday behind us with 5 Fridays in the month of April. Seems like it went by pretty fast to option expiration, being that it happens on the third Friday of every month. So here's SPY. It did end, if you zoom in just enough, it was actually a bullish day, but almost a perfect doji on the day. At all-time highs. Alas, it is another all-time high. RSI is getting, let's see, where are we here? RSI is getting up there, so I do think some type of pullback is imminent. I think the dip is going to be viable. I don't think it's going to be anything too crazy, but I do think we dip, maybe chop around a little bit through earnings, and we'll see what happens from there. By the way, if I'm not interacting with chat in the recording, it's because I'm redoing the recording because my internet kept dying in the middle of recording the afternoon room. Thomas helped take over. The recording was chopped to pieces, so I just decided to re-record with the same tickers, and hopefully I'll give the same analysis out there. The Q's all-time high as well today, although it is a little bit of a bearish body on that candle with a nice little lower wick. The lower wick on yesterday's candle is not fully real. We didn't actually trade down to 336, and then this lower wick is also not accurate. So Q's not as extended on RSI, but it is getting up there. New all-time high today. Looks bullish, and we're coming into earnings season. IWM chopping around, resting a little bit. Nice little double hammers here. This was the good old bear shat pattern. So a bearish candle gapping up that faded and ended bearish. But the IWM is still in a nice bullish trend. So IWM still looks good. The Dow also closed at an all-time high with a nice little doji. And if I go over to RSI, the Dow Jones is getting up there on RSI as well. So again, I think a pullback is pretty much imminent for the market to pull back just a smidge. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. I think it's going to be dip buyable. Just don't be surprised. If you have a lot of positions that have a lot of profit in on them that are, shorter midterm, as we get into earnings season, I personally think it's a good idea to get in some collars, sell some calls, those types of things so that you protect some of those profits that are already in your accounts. Tesla also looks really bullish. This gap right here from the 13th, sorry. Super strong, retested, and we're just hanging out. I think that it does probably have a little bit of a run up into earnings, but this pullback and rest was good because this was a nice retest gap. So it's retesting a little bit, going sideways a bit, but this is the candle that told me, hey, Tesla is back into a bullish trend, and I do think that it's going to go higher. I think they're going to crush earnings. Doesn't mean they'll necessarily go up on it, because we've seen the market go higher on bad earnings. We've seen the market go lower on good earnings. It's just all about interpretation at that particular time. Chewy looks pretty good. Earnings were great. It did pull back, held strong here, consolidated, and was moving a little higher, runs into the 50, and I think we're just resting. So if you are buying what looks to be a bit of a, let's see, looks like a little bit of a double bottom neckline test into this area. It doesn't look perfect, but also have a little pennant pattern here that we're breaking out, retesting. I think Chewy looks pretty good. I just don't think it's going to go screaming higher. So I would be acquiring smaller size in here, or make sure you have your stops. A lot of stocks are going to look like this. Squeeze between the 100 and 200, but at least they have not broken lower. I think you'll hear that quite a few times throughout the recording. Big pullback, is consolidating, going sideways. I don't think it does a whole lot into earnings. Again, trading view always off on earnings. Just a reminder, please double check the earnings dates on Earnings Whisperer because some of them are way off. Some of them are pretty close. Like this one says May 10th. Some of them are off by like a month on TradingView. So just double check the earnings dates. But earnings over the next 3 weeks, we're going to have about 70% of the market, of the S&P at least, report earnings over the next few weeks. Maxar, also nice pullback. Do have a lot of lower highs in here. Hopefully this is a higher low. This is another one in between the 100 and 200. Earnings are coming up. So if you're buying down here, I get it. Just, again, be careful with how much size you're buying and or, get some protection over earnings, that kind of thing. DraftKings. So DraftKings, I actually thought was a good gap this morning. And we were bouncing off the 100 yesterday at a key level that needs to bounce. It was bouncing. Had the NFL news today. It was gapping up pre-market. And it just sold off. We actually tried to play it in here, buying a retest. On the 5-minute, you can see some really nice hammers. Like these 3 hammers look good. We actually broke above this tweezer top, ran into 60, that, flat dollar, and then just sold off pretty much all day long. So I think DraftKings is going to come lower. Even with the good news, I think we're in for, a test of 50, maybe low 50s. We'll see where the 200 is by earnings by the time it comes around. But I do think DraftKings is going to come lower just based off of how it interacted today with that news and then the fact that it didn't hold up. Pinterest. So Pinterest out of nowhere this morning, all of a sudden just gets totally pooped on. It pulled back 10% in like 30 minutes off of, I didn't see any news on it. So I saw it down here and I'm like, well, I don't really want to be selling a ton of puts up here, but I am kind of itching to sell some puts on some stuff. Here's Matt's put sale indicator. So I am selling below this green line. It's also right around the 200, especially as this 200 starts to trade higher. It is over earnings. So I only sold one, but I feel like I got pretty good premium. That's over 2% for about 30 days worth of 30 days worth of time. So if it trades lower, I'll just buy some shares and then I got the put floating out there. We'll see what happens, but there was some premium because it was down 10% today. I like Pinterest. Looks pretty strong. So let me go over to C real quick. All right, let's go over to C and let's take this off. We'll just do that. C looks strong, has maintained its bullish trend. I wouldn't buy up here per se, but if you are buying any types of dips or you bought this dip, this was definitely the place to buy. C Limited. It looked like a big head and shoulders in here, and you had the false breakdown, and then we went higher. So C looks good. And I wouldn't get in now. You do have some time before earnings, so if you are buying pullbacks, that's great. If you're long, if you're already long, stay long. Looks good. Twist Biosciences. It does look like it's forming a double bottom down in here and a possible neckline test. Ran into some resistance. Does have earnings coming up pretty soon. This could be one to watch if it does gap above this 150, 152 area on earnings. It could be in for a nice little move higher. I don't really know anything about this company, but we'll see what happens. Earnings right around the corner. Just be careful establishing too many new positions right before earnings season. So you're probably going to hear that quite a lot over the next week or so of the afternoon swing trading rooms. Inspire Medical Systems. This one also looks good. Also looked like it was forming that head and shoulders pattern, and then instead of breaking down like some of the ones like Space, Fubo, etc., that just broke down, they're getting crushed. QS. This is one that ended up breaking higher, so this one looks pretty good. Is in a bullish trend. I would probably be looking to set up some collars on this. Earnings right around the corner on INSP. Let's just double check here. INSP. May 4th is earnings, so yeah, right around the corner. I would look to have some protection, especially if I bought it down in here, lock in some gains, that kind of thing. Redfin, I really like the fact that Redfin pulled back and is consolidating here. Earnings are way off by like I think 2 or 3 weeks on this one. So earnings are like late May or early June, I think it was. But I like this pullback. Real estate is hot, hot, hot right now. Selling a lot of homes all over the place, low inventory, expensive to build, price of lumber going through the roof. Don't let anyone tell you there's not inflation. There is massive inflation in actual tangible things that you buy out in the world, no matter what the Fed's report says. And I think that's going to translate into higher price home sales and continued strength. I think Redfin will probably benefit from that. It just had a really big pullback or a really big run. So it had to pull back a little bit. It's going sideways. If you do want to take a breakout here, or if it continues sideways into earnings, could try some iron condors, or maybe even if it does trade sideways, maybe buy a straddle over earnings. We'll see. We got plenty of time before earnings, but yeah, Redfin I think is at a good area between the 100 200. So just be careful with how much you're buying. Everyone's favorite, Fastly going nowhere, going sideways, moving averages. Someone pointed this out the other day in the Wednesday stock review. The 100 and 200, they kind of look like a penguin, and I don't disagree. I mean, this looks like, you know, the body, the head, you got the beak right here, right? Penguins have beaks, I think. But Fastly, yeah, going sideways. I don't think it's going to do anything until earnings, and we'll see what happens over earnings. I did have one covered call expire today at 80. I got another one for April 30th at 85. Earnings are beginning of May. We'll see what happens. They need to do well. They had poor earnings last time, primarily guidance. They need to guide up or high, or at least maintain their guidance, in my opinion. So I don't think it does a whole lot. Everyone was really upset that Fastly kept going lower. Sometimes you got to wait a couple months for something to pull back and consolidate. It's doing that. It stopped going lower, so that's a good thing. Now we'll see what happens over earnings. Amazon trading into some resistance. Really nice move on Amazon. If you bought down here off this green line, another little penguin looking thing here at the 100 200. But if you bought off this 2900 area, and I know some folks have bought some calls and sold them over here, great job. Earnings are right around the corner. I think Amazon crushes earnings. Just remember, Amazon has gone sideways for, I think this was like a year and a half. Not saying it's going to do that again, but it could. And then when it broke out, it went up, let's say it broke out of the channel right here. It went up about 75%. So if we do channel sideways, I think long-term Amazon goes higher. That seems like a little bit of a no-brainer to me. Apple looking very, very good. Nice double bottom. Great gap down here. Really cute. Look at this candle. Really cute high wave candle right on the 100. Very next day. Bullish engulfing candle. That was your sign to say, hey, you know what? I mean, buy into this close for sure. And then this run up, I think it's Tuesday. Yeah, 420. Tuesday, they have a event. They're announcing some new products. Apple has been very consistent with like a buy the rumor, sell the news into their news events. So if you are in shorter term swing trades, like let's say you did buy calls here, I think Jeremy bought some calls on this candle. I'd probably take profits into that event. But again, totally up to you. Long term, Apple obviously looks fine. I did have a put sale expire worthless on Apple today. That just didn't even have a chance of getting put pretty much ever. So nice little gain there. Teladoc, hey, at least Teladoc stopped going down, right? So Teladoc hanging out. I think much like Fastly, they need to have strong earnings. It's not going to do anything until earnings. And even if it does, I don't think it's just going to go rampaging back, you know, to 300. If they do not do well on earnings, though, I think this thing could see the 100 on the weekly. And not that wouldn't be a bad place to buy it. It's hit it before. It's been a long time since it did. I know that'd be a little bit painful for some, but it's totally possible. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. We'll see what happens over earnings. I think this is going to be the first full quarter since the Livongo Health merger that Teladoc did. Baba. So Baba is trying to hold the 50 here. The settlement with the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, was announced. 2.8 billion, kind of a drop in the bucket for Baba. They'll make that money back. Market has a little bit of finality to that situation, and so that's why you saw this nice gap up. And we're just resting. I thought we would retest a little bit of this gap, maybe into here, and then end up bouncing going higher. If this thing gaps up on earnings and starts to run, this gap will never fill on Baba. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I don't see why they wouldn't do well on earnings. And again, with some of that news kind of coming to fruition and just a small fine, well, small for Baba. But we know what's happened with Facebook, Google, Amazon, Apple. Every time they've gotten fined, they've just ended up going higher. I think Baba probably does the same thing. Here is AMD. So AMD did hold the 200 by the skin of its teeth today, right on top of that 200. This was a really not a great candle. It got Nvidia. You had this inside bullish candle, and then you closed below it the next day. It looked like we were for sure coming back in here. But then yesterday's gap and candle was phenomenal. Today, nice little resting day. And this has earnings coming up. If we gap up above this 85 zone, I do think that you could see AMD go higher. I did have a covered call expire worthless at 85 today. And that was the second covered call that I had on AMD since I got put shares at 80. So just chipping away at that dollar cost average. Unless we trade up into 88 or 90 before earnings, I don't think I'm going to do anything with AMD over earnings because I do think that it could gap up. So that's my plan. Obviously, follow whatever your plan is, but it does look good. I like that this looks like a double bottom. This looks like a neckline retest, and it looks to me like we're going higher. Some folks entered on a swing trade in the middle of this long day bullish candle. That makes total sense to me. Roku. So Roku, I do really like this 3-day pennant pattern here. So nice little 3-day pennant pattern. If this thing gaps up, I think it could really move. And this also, we have time before earnings. So this one could continue to go higher. I know there were a lot of folks looking to buy this off of, including me, off of 256, this old high to become new support, and the 200. It just never got there. So is what it is. I also tried to set up a swing trade, kind of like that AMD candle in the middle of this candle. Never filled, so I canceled that. And if we break out of this pennant pattern upwards, I think it could have a little bit of a run. Stone Cold, this is an official trade. The target one was not in the official journal. That's how I traded it. So I pulled a little bit off here at target 1, and the target 2, I think Jeremy has his target right in here at the 100 as well. Plenty of time before earnings on Stone Cold. Pulled into the 200. Looks like it's bouncing nicely. And also a nice little 3-day pennant pattern. Actually, if you combine these two candles, got about a 5-day pennant. So that's kind of cool. Dogecoin, Edward Lin making gobs and gobs of money on the Doge. I don't know what else to say about this. It's literally at 40 billion plus in market cap. So, and it doesn't do anything. It's a meme. It has no use. Allegedly, it's going to be the currency of Mars, is what some people are saying out there. But yeah, Doge, USD. Hey, if you're in it, congratulations. If you made some money on the Doge, awesome. If you're just threw $100 in it and you're like, hey, I'll sell it when Elon gets to Mars, cool. I would probably just take it off after this craziness, though, if I had some. Workday looks pretty solid. We did gap down today, but we did hold the low of this hammer candle from yesterday that had some volume on it. It has hit the 100 multiple times. Myself, Jeremy, a lot of other folks were playing it off the 100 just like a boss. And I did not do it this time, though. I kind of just This was the last one as it traded back up into here, sold it. So I think the next time if it does it, it's probably coming to the 200 because it's bounced there like 5 or 6 times. So I don't think it does that again. I think it probably comes to the 200 next. I don't have any position on workday right now, but if you are in, it does look good. I'd probably throw some collars or sell some calls if there's money up like 285, 290. That looks like a pretty cool area. First Solar, it needed to bounce here, and it did. And it did it with some good volume. The other thing is that it immediately, so it opened, immediately got bought up today. So it had good momentum today. I like the fact that it opened, got bought up immediately. This is where it needs to bounce. It broke out of this multi-year channel, traded into resistance, retested, and it looks like it's bouncing again. I have 2 January 2022 100 calls. The first one almost free because I had been trading it since like elections over here, trading around it, selling calls, buying an extra leap, some shares, that kind of thing. And I added one more call. If it breaks this hammer though, right here, I'm probably just going to dump these positions because I don't want it to go back into this channel and get stuck there for 10 more years. So this is where First Solar needs to bounce. It looks like it is going to. Wrecker Systems, it's wrecking it. It's doing a good job. It looks nice. If I was in Wrecker, I would also have a collar, sell some calls, lock in some gains, but it looks good. I wouldn't be buying it up here per se, but it did have a little bit of a pullback, and yeah, if you're in Wrecker, cool. Sunrun, similar to First Solar, it needed to bounce here. It looks like it's bouncing. You have increasing volume on this bullish candle, so that looks nice to me. If you are in Sunrun, I think you know where your stop needs to be. I mean, I don't think we should come back below here. Like, how many times do we want to test the same area? So, yeah, I think that's probably the spot to pull the ripcord on Sunrun if it breaks. Because otherwise, the 100 on the weekly is it's a little far away. SWKS, Skyworks Solutions. So this is an Apple supplier. Looks really solid. Didn't quite make it to the 100 on these last pullbacks. It's another one. Earnings right around the corner. I would have callers, sell calls. I don't see how you're not extremely profitable considering this thing is literally at an all-time high if you're in it. So I would have some protection over earnings to lock in some gains. Amcell, aka Amwell, just a brick wall at 1770, and it's trying to hold the floor here at 1647 or so. And yeah, I don't think it does anything tremendous. Probably chops around into earnings. Didn't it just have earnings? What's up with that? March, yeah. This is obviously wrong. So I think this chops around, goes sideways, but I really don't want it to break the low of this candle. I don't think it should do that. Plus there's volume there. So be careful with the Amcell. Could it go to zero? I mean, it could. It probably doesn't. I mean, heck, even Nikola is not at zero yet, and they're like a fake company. So, Fuel Cell, just getting absolutely curbolished. Someone asked me about if I would establish like a position trade on Fuel Cell or Plug. They're kind of the same thing. The answer is no. When I go to a weekly and I zoom out and like the chart looks like this, and we're just ski sloping our way towards zero, then that's going to be a no-go on me and having a position trade on a stock like this. So if you're trying to buy the dip, I mean, just be very careful. Do it with smaller size. You know, don't go in and buy like, oh, I'm going to buy all the leaps right here because this thing could continue lower. You do have the 200, but it's looking like it's double black diamonding. It's double black diamonding its way back towards penny stock land at $5 or so. CrowdStrike looks like a nice double bottom right here, and probably a little bit of a retest, and then look for it to move higher. I like CrowdStrike. I like that we made a little bit of a higher low here, and then we broke back above this pivot point. But if it doesn't retest, you got a nice little pennant pattern, and we gap up. Like on Monday, if we gap up to, what is this level? Like 219.60, 220. This looks like a pretty easy day trade bullish. So I'm going to keep that on a list there. Gold pulled back to a really neat spot. So here's a little fib on the weekly. And we are double bottoming off of this 618 retrace on the weekly. I think that this is a decent place. I added some gold down here to a little bit longer term position. If you want to buy a retest around 163, 162, makes sense to me. Inflation is here. Again, just go to your local Home Depot, try to buy a 2x4 or a piece of plywood or some PVC pipe or a graphics card for your computer, aka anything that you can actually touch and feel, and it's probably gone up in price with the money printer going burr. So I think gold is a little bit of a hedge against inflation. This run up was just a lot really fast, so a pullback was in order. Pulled back, bounced where it needs to bounce. I like gold down here. CRM, also another company that I am pretty bullish on. I've been accumulating ever since this gap down here for the last 5 months or so. Granted, I probably should have sold that leap right there that I bought on this day. I did sell a call against it, and then I do have some shares, but yeah, I didn't get my full position size, so that's why I didn't take that call off. I do have another May covered call here on CRM. It never quite got to 200 on the nose. Here's the weekly, never quite got to that 100. But I also like this weekly consolidation and then a breakout. So I think a little bit of a retest is in order, and then probably to go higher. I thought their earnings were good. This was just kind of not the best time to report, I guess. Plus they had the huge acquisition with Slack that cost a pretty penny. And then over here when they reported, again, I thought their earnings report was pretty decent. But this is when all the high growth stocks were really getting beat up. So yeah, I like CRM longer term. I don't think it goes to the moon tomorrow or anything like that. I get it if you're like, well, Robert, there's this big downtrend we're about to trade into. I get that too. So I have a little bit more that I can buy and then look to trade it higher over time. So XRP, the Ripple Army. The Ripple Army is finally getting to celebrate all over the internet. I have a friend, I think he's like a straight general in the Ripple Army. I mean, he loves him some Ripple, and he is all over the place. Excited about Ripple. So congratulations if you're in it. I think it's kind of a poop coin, but yeah, it's trending nicely. So congratulations if you're in Ripple. Where was I? And we will end. Someone was memeing me, I think, wanting to put Nikola on the list. And again, this is just an example of like companies don't go to zero all that fast, even if they're just absolute garbage. I don't even think that this is like a real company. I think it's a scam and it'll be on American Greed one day. But double black diamond ski slope on its way back to the single digits. It's going downhill, kind of like their truck. The only way it moves is to roll it down a hill. Dan drew a little car on it earlier in the morning trade room. So yeah, Nikola, hopefully no one's in it. My opinion, don't buy this thing. I think it's, yeah, I kind of already summed it up. But other than that, have a great weekend, everybody. Markets look bullish. Love life, live life, and trade it. Thanks, everyone.